In today's video, I'm going to go through the process that I use when I get a new game in and how I organize it and I get it ready for play. So, for example, in this one, I'm going to use the U.S. Civil War here now. This is a game that I got just recently. It's been out for a little bit, but it's a nice, heavy game with lots of counters, and it's one of those games that sometimes is kind of difficult to get back into the box. So once I get one of these games in, the first thing I do is I do a review on it. And once I do the review, then I go ahead and I start working on cutting out the pieces and rounding the corners. So let me show you how I cut out the pieces on these games. Now there are many different ways of punching this out. You can just push them out if you like. One of the ways that I found that's pretty efficient is by using one of these. And what I do is I get the blade, and this is a rotary, just a rotary cutter, a Frisk-Art rotary cutter, and I get the blade down in between the pre-cut, and I just rock it back and forth and follow, and you can see that it cuts it off pretty easy. Oops, let me get that. So I will cut these pieces like this. And this particular one that I'm doing is actually from Great Battles of Julius Caesar. I've already cut the ones out for U.S. Civil War. But once I get them all cut like that, I would go ahead and just trim off these pieces here. And as you can see, it's rather quick. Now the main thing about this one is this has this little edge here. And so you don't want to go push down at this angle. You want to keep it straight up and down. And that way it doesn't create a crease, because it'll create a little crease along the inside there if you do that. But like I said, you know, you punch them out the way that you want to. This sort of cleans up the ends of them. It makes them easy to stack. And then from there, I just break them apart as I start clipping them. So again, like I said, these blades are cheap for these things. I always start inside one of the slits already created there, and then I rotate it out to the solid pieces here, like right there. And then this one is of course going to go over and hit that piece right there. And set that aside. Start right here, rock it out, and follow along there. And like I said, for me, this method works pretty good. It's pretty fast. You can use whatever method you want for cutting these things out. It's not rocket science. Okay, so this is the cutter that I use for rounding the corners. And these, of course, are blank ones here. But while I'm sitting down watching TV or watching baseball or anything on television, I'll sit there and just cut these out. And after a while, you get to be pretty quick at it, and it just moves around relatively fast. But you know, everybody debates this. Some people say, you know, the problem with clipping is that all this time you spend clipping, you could spend playing a game, which I'm not going to argue that. I mean, that's very true. But I do my clipping while, like I said, I'm watching TV or something else, so it doesn't really interfere with it. Now, this particular one is a nice clipper. The only problem is this handle tends to break as it comes down. It puts a lot of pressure here as it pulls this down. So on some forum, somebody had said put a die in here so that when this presses down here, it doesn't go all the way, but it goes far enough to clip everything. And so I did that right away, and this thing has clipped a lot of games so far, and probably will clip, you know, quite a few more. But this prevents that from putting an undue stress on this so it doesn't break, and eventually I'm sure it will, but everybody seems to. And the other fact too is that I have 4 dogs, and they hated the squeak that happens when I push it all the way closed. And so once I put this in to stop squeaking, the dogs didn't freak out whenever I was cutting counter clips. So when I was doing the clipping on the corners. So anyway, all of my counters get clipped because I like the look of it. I like the feel of it. If you don't, that's fine. That saves you one step, but that's what I do in all my games once I get them done. So now if I can, I try to use these trays here. They're inexpensive. They cost, what, $2 each when you buy in bulks of 10, maybe $2.50. And they're cheap, they're easy, they fit in the GMT boxes they're made for them. So I try to use them. Now some games you can get away with that. You know, the games that I can put them in the trays and put them in here and they'd all fit in the box, I'm perfectly happy with. And that's pretty much the end of it. Once I get them all cooked out, put them there, organize them the way that I think fits the best, and I'm done. However, on this particular game, you need at least 2 trays. You can see that this is almost full and this is really full. So you need 2 trays, and the problem with that is that, I don't know, let's see if you can see that here. But you can see that that sticks over the top here. So when you close the top down, you have a little bit of a gap. Now, you know, some people that may not bother, but, you know, in the shelf here, you have this little bit showing down here. And that kind of irritates me a little bit. I guess my OCD kicks in, but I don't like that too much. So what I do is I have a 3D printer. So I'd pull out all of the pieces here that are the counters. And so I tried to design some counters or counter trays that will fit in here. And so in this particular case, when I pull out all of these, sometimes you have a spacer down here, and that immediately goes as soon as I get the game. But in this case, we have some solid maps down here, and we have some cardboard pieces here too that space out this map. We also have a small deck of cards and 6 die here. So what I would normally do is this cardboard here, I'll probably keep. I think I'll tape it up, maybe put a piece of wood in here so that just gives it a nice firm base, so that way it holds this map in place. Same way with this piece here. I'm gonna go ahead and just keep them in there to hold this map there. So once I stack all of the rules and all the manuals on top, this is the amount of room that I have to play with here, so that I can make my trays that are going to go in here. So this is what I have to work with, this area right here. So I have the size, the width here, and the length. Now I can't make an entire tray because my printer isn't big enough, so I have to make like sections of 3 of them that will go in here. And I use these calipers here in millimeters, and I will go ahead and measure all of my pieces here. I'll measure down to that, and then I will take that measurement and I will transfer it. Now I know how high I need my tray to sit. So I will make a tray for them. And I'll show you that in a minute, but the tray will look something like this. And it will fit in here, and when I design it for the lid to fit on there too, and I like lids. Now if you have it fitting all the way to the top, you don't necessarily need a lid, but I like to have lids. So I will fit this all the way to the top here and design it for the lid to go on to fit in there. And so what I'm going to end up with is I will end up with 3 different trays here. Now this might be too much. I mean, you know, sometimes you can fill up just 1 or 2, and then you can put just a blank piece in here, and you know, I can just make a blank piece out of plastic to put in there. But I like to fill it up so that when I put it up on the bookshelf, nothing rattles around, nothing moves. I also found that when I design these, I need to not go too deep here, and so all I'll do is I'll adjust the depth here to match this here. So I think I have enough for like 8 or 9 counters. Now, if I make the counters all the way down here into the bottom depth of this, the problem with that is that when it tilts up, they tend to fall over if they're not completely full. And a lot of times you won't have them completely full because I'll separate them out for each individual piece when I have this many to work with. So let's go on a computer and I'll show you what I use to design this with. Now here at the computer, you see that I'm using SketchUp, and that's what I use because I also have a woodworking channel, and I do a lot of woodworking. I use SketchUp for woodworking, and it also can be used for 3D printing. And I I'm putting my measurements and start making my trays and then adjusting them. Now you can see here that I'm adjusting this tray for those tiny cards that are in the U.S. Civil War. And I'm going to have a spot for that. And I'm going to have a spot for my 6 dice to fit in also. So my last tray is going to be a custom tray. The other 2 trays that are going to fit in there are going to be for the 1/2-inch counters. But the last one is going to be customized. Once I have that, I'm going to load that into Cura. And you can see here that the STL file goes in. And I have it set up for my Ender base plate. And you can see that this fits right across there. Almost is the full length. Now, I find that if I rotate it and have it going from front to back, that this seems to have better adhesion than it does going sideways the way that's originally put in there. So I will slice this, and that's basically going to set up everything for my files for my Ender 3. And then I'll save that to the disk. Now, I have it preset. I have a lot of presets here that I've worked out so that I know exactly how it's going to print out. And I just save it to the disk, and from here I go off to the printer. Now at the printer for this particular tray, it takes about 17 hours. And after it's fully finished, then I will make the lid, and the lid takes another 3, I think 3 and 3.5 hours. So basically I have 3 trays that I'm making at 17 hours each, and 3 lids at about 3 or 4 hours each. So it takes a few days to put this all together. My 3D printer can make a piece about this big. Now I can go much further out here, but this is the width of my plate here. So what I decided to do is divide it up into 3s. That way, if I need to, I can make different pieces for each section here. So in this case, I need just counters. So I have 2 of these that I made for counters. And then the third one, I actually made for the 1/2-inch counters. And I also made spots for the dice to fit in here, and also for the cards to go over here. So and they're a little bit loose here between, because I do have lids that go on top of all of them. And as soon as I probably should put the lid on before I set it in there, that'll make it easier. There we go. And I have the 3rd lid printing up for this one right now, so that's going to be printed up here. So once these are in there, this lid fits on. And you see that it fits all the way down the box now. So the box lies closed completely with this setup here. And this should provide me with more than enough, I would think, space for all of my counters. So much so that I think these 2 trays here, I could have each individual counter in its own spot. Like I could separate the 1s and the 2s and the 6s into all of their own spots. Now, I think I mentioned it before, but I tend to only bring these down so far and only have a stack of, I think it's 8. I'll have to find out once I put them in there, I'll tell you exactly. But then I have this space at the bottom here that I can adjust up and down to allow it to fit for whatever amount of space that I have height-wise inside the box here. So let me put all the counters in and show you what it looks like once everything is packed away. Okay, so our final results, if I get this lit decently, is right here. So this is what I ended up with, and of course they don't have the lids on them right now, but I wanted to show you what I have. So each one of these are separated so that they can easily be pulled out. Now, the nice thing about this is all of these can be pulled out and set aside, and you can pull from this tray. So you can have everything set up off to the side, easily defined. So if you need a number 2 or number 5 group, you can pull them from there. If you need a flag, you can pull that. Whatever you need, you can see everything, because I got enough room here to put each one individually into its own little slot. I also made room here for the cards, so that that way the cards can fit right in here nice and neat. And of course, made room for my 6 die right here. So I have some extra space here, which is fine. If I don't ever use it, that's fine too. If I get an expansion or something like that, something with extra counters, maybe I'll have room for that. I don't know. But right now, this fits perfect for what I need. So these, if I can slide them out without dropping stuff. Now they can go any place, you know, if you wanted to. You can put them on top of the map. Most of the time what I will do is I will put the paper down and I will just have these on top of the paper. So put one there, the other one right there. Anyway, I got all the right here, and then boom, there it is, all back into the container, nice and neat. Everything fits perfect. You can see it all closes up well. Okay, so that's my adaptation for U.S. Civil War on making counter trays for this to hold everything so that it goes back into the box, easily put back on the shelf. Everything's nice and neat. Pull out the trays, set them off to the side, pull out the map board, able to play straight from the trays if I want to. Now the trays do have slots in them right here, which makes it easy to pull out individual ones. Of course, you know I use tweezers, but there are some people against tweezers, and I'm looking at you, Stigler. But you know, I can pull them out one at a time from the slots. I can also fit my hand in there and flip them out, whatever I need. But everything can come from these trays while I'm playing, so it makes it nice and easy to organize everything. So, you know, I do use these a lot. As a matter of fact, I've got 10 more coming, or a pack of 10 coming of these. But I still use these whenever I can. So it's just much easier just to, if I can use these in the box and everything fits back in the box, it's no problem. But when you get games like this and many others, you have to start making custom setups. Another example would be B17 liter here. This is another one that inside the box, it's hard to get everything back, especially with the blocks and stuff. So I made custom holders, which I'll show you next time as to how I made those, or what they all are. Oops, excuse me on that there. So I'll show you next time on those custom holders. But the B17 is another good example of one that I made. And that was my first round of designs that I sort of used off of Thingiverse. And that's these type here, which slide out. And it's a neat setup too. And I like that for some of the games. But they don't fit in there as tight as I like it. I like it when everything fits in there nice and neat and everything is locked in. So that's pretty much what I do. Every time you see me do a box opening, and then after that I figure out how everything's going to go in there. I take all of the counters, punch them all out, clip them, either use the trays or make custom fitted 3D trays for all the counters for them. So if you like that, please do give a thumbs up down on the video, and please do subscribe. That helps out the channel. Makes us keep producing these, and I will have more in the future on different ways that I've organized different games, especially games with a lot of cards. So thanks for watching this one. Hopefully you'll be around for the next one. Take care.